Are the Vikings inching closer towards adding a veteran edge rusher to their defense? What should we make of their new cornerback? And what do we make of their wide receiver who has been suspended for the first 3 games of the season? That and more in today's episode of Vikings Latest, which is sponsored by Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market. Use code FANARCHFOOTBALL to get $10 when you trade 10 with Kalshi. Thank you, Kalshi, for all you do for this channel. So, on Tuesday, Jordan Schultz, who is all over social media, you probably seen him on like Fox Sports. Will be on the Colin Cowherd show. He's like really in the know with a lot of agents and stuff. So he tweeted, two-time Pro Bowl outside linebacker Hassan Reddick has become the latest veteran pass rusher, drawing interest from teams after recent signings, including Von Miller to Dallas, Zadarius Smith to Atlanta, and Derek Barnett to Cleveland. The 31-year-old Reddick has 61 and a half career sacks and spent last season in Tampa Bay. Reddick's one of the guys that we have talked about potentially being signed by the Vikings because he's kind of like that 3-4 kind of edge guy. Used to be like really, really good. He's kind of fallen off in some recent years, but you're not expecting him to take over and be a full-time starter. We know what we have in Andrew Van Ginkel. Dallas Turner, it sounds like he's ready to really take off this year. In yesterday's episode, we talked about how Christian Darrisaw is saying that Turner's going to have a special year. Last week in joint practices, Dallas Turner looked awesome against the Ravens. So you're not exactly counting on Hassan Reddick to turn into a 15 sack guy again like he was in 2022. You need him to just 20% of the plays, 30% of the plays, something like that. Come off the bench, just provide some like comfort when Turner and or Andrew Van Ginkel is off the field. So yeah, you're not trying to reinvent the defense. You're not trying to hope that they find the fountain of youth. You're looking for somebody who can contribute and not completely screw up when they're on the field. We've seen Tyron Ingram Dawkins play at edge, and I haven't hated him as much as what PFF has shown. PFF has him with a 36.8 grade through 2 games in the preseason. And he's had some rough moments. There was one play against the Giants where he didn't really set the edge very well, but I thought he had an awesome first drive against the Ravens last week. And Brian Flores said that that is Ingram Dawkins, has been, kind of maturing this year as he's taken on this kind of additional role after being an interior defensive lineman as a rookie last year. Still, even as much as I've kind of liked what I've seen out of Ingram Dawkins, he has been getting a lot of run with the ones. I still don't know if I completely trust him to be that edge three. I don't know if I completely trust him to be the first guy off the bench. That's why I think somebody like Hassan Reddick could make sense. We got the final preseason game at the end of this week. Training camps in the background. And Reddick, he's one of the vets who doesn't really want to partake in all that stuff. He knows how to get his body ready now that the season's approaching. Probably looks a little different than it did when he was younger. But because of that, he doesn't need all those training camp reps and all that. So could a signing be coming? It could be. We're 2.5 weeks away from kickoff for the beginning of the Vikings season against the Packers at US Bank Stadium on September 13th. So keep an eye on that. I still say keep an eye out on Joey Bosa as well. And honestly, can't really blame somebody like that being 31 years old not wanting to partake in training camp, because you know how it is when you start getting older. It's harder to get your body to recover after working out or even just playing sports. Like I said, when I play flag football or I play pickup basketball on the weekends, it takes a lot longer for me to get back into shape just to work throughout the week. Just running up and down the court, man, you really start feeling it. Yeah, I work construction, so I'll be, climbing ladders, and that's just one more thing to take, some taxing on my body. Used to be able to, play sports every single day after school on the weekends. Never bugged me. Now it does. It's like, man, don't feel like I did when I was 21. So yeah, you get into your 30s, realize you don't necessarily bounce back the same way you did when you were younger. That's where something like Mars Men comes in. Mars Men is a natural supplement designed to support healthy testosterone levels. It uses natural ingredients like tongat alley, shilajit, zinc, and boron. There aren't any weird stimulants or synthetic hormones. It's made in the USA. It's third-party tested, and it's available at GNC nationwide. And Mars Men comes with a 90-day money back guarantee. So if you don't absolutely love it, you can get your money back. So for a limited time, our listeners get 50% off for life plus free shipping and 3 free gifts at mengotomars.com. That's mengotomars.com for 50% off and 3 free gifts when you check out. After you purchase, they will ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Be sure to let them know Fan Arch sent you after checkout. All right, so the Vikings have actually been making some moves over the past couple days. They signed Trey Hawkins, the third cornerback, who was drafted in 2023 in the sixth round by the Giants. He stands 6'3", 195 pounds. They are signing him after Dwight McGlothern. If you watched the preseason game, you saw he wanted to exit one play, and then they kept him on the field, and then he was hurt the very next play, which isn't really funny, but it's kind of like, why didn't you just call a timeout? It's preseason. Who cares? So McGlothern, who's pretty popular in the locker room, hasn't really developed into the corner that we've expected after that outstanding rookie season training camp that he had. Hawkins kind of replaces him. He had this is Hawkins, had a 52.6 PFF grade as a rookie. He was credited with allowing 21 completions on 26 attempts for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Was a little bit better in his second year. He only played 82 snaps, but he had a 79.0 grade and had a pick. Spent some time, he did spend most of the season last year with the Commanders. Appeared in one game, but a hamstring injury kind of did him in for that. So don't know if this is just to have a camp body, just like somebody to, take up a roster spot, fill out the bottom of the roster with preseason game number 3 upcoming on Friday night. But the size is intriguing. This isn't. I wouldn't completely dismiss this just yet. He is entering his 4th season, even if Hawkins hasn't been really much of a household name or anything. He is still young-ish, but also has a little bit of experience to go along with that. So I wouldn't completely dismiss it just yet. 6'3", 195 pounds. It could always use some longer corners on the outside. And at least for one game, we'll need him with Dwight McGlothern, nicknamed Nudie, will not be in the Vikings lineup. So, like I said, I think I made sure to say Nudie was waived with an injury designation. So not necessarily just straight up cut. So don't know if that means he's going to be back or not. So, all right. So there's one clip going viral on X right now of Kevin O'Connell talking with Ryan Fitzpatrick and Andrew Whitworth about the importance or lack thereof of completion percentage over the course of a practice. Basically, O'Connell was saying that, reporters, they chart, this guy completed 15 of 19 passes, or he completed 10 out of 25, and the guy that completed 10 passes looked really bad, and the other guy who completed 19 or whatever I said looked really good. Why is that? Well, O'Connell said sometimes you want to see these quarterbacks try to make things work in practice, see if you can get away with it. You don't want to try something for the first time in a game. And he said, who better to try these things against than a Brian Flores defense, where Flores is giving you absolutely nothing. Flores does not care about your quarterback development, or at least coddling the quarterback. He's going to send everything he's got every single play, even in practice, against the Vikings offense. So O'Connell was sometimes he said there's just not enough time in the day for him to explain to reporters why completion percentage just does not matter that much to him. And that kind of made me think of Kyler Murray, and how Kyler Murray, even when I saw it last week against the Ravens in joint practices, it wasn't always that pretty, but I wasn't at every single training camp practice throughout August. So I was wondering if it was kind of sometimes him just trying to see what he could get away with. And that almost feels like that's what Kevin O'Connell is alluding to. Now, that doesn't just mean, just play backyard football, just be chucking the ball like it's 500 every single play. He said you still have to get your feet right, still have to have the process right. If you're making your right reads and your feet look good, your eyes look good, yeah, if the ball is ultimately incomplete or intercepted, he can live with that. But yeah, it's more nuanced than just ball is complete, that looks good, or ball is incomplete, that was just atrocious. Like, there is a lot more nuance to that, and we won't have fans in the stands anymore now that joint practices and training camp is in the rearview mirror. But it was just interesting. I thought it was important to kind of bring that up with everything that happened with Kyler Murray. I'm pretty sure that is an older podcast though, because I'm pretty sure I watched that at some point earlier this offseason. So I don't know if this was necessarily just defending Kyler Murray and or JJ McCarthy after these joint practices and stuff that everybody saw. But yeah, I think it's important. Interestingly, Brian Flores, he was talking about the young players on his defense and how he wants them to kind of make mistakes, kind of try things out because they don't know what they don't know. So, he said that like Caleb Banks was like, he's like, try shooting that gap, see what happens. Not like I dare you, but like, see what happens. And if you screw up and you learn from it, great. You'd rather, do that in training camp or practice. And then, game reps are still ultimately going to be most important, but, just kind of learning what you can and can't get away with. That also goes for like Tyron Ingram Dawkins, Dominique Orange, a lot of young guys on the defensive line. That was mostly who he was talking about in Tuesday's press conference, but that goes for a lot of guys across the board. We got Jake Golday at linebacker. He's got all the explosion in the world, all the athleticism in the world, but because he doesn't know every single nuance to the NFL, he's probably going to start the year behind Blake Cashman, Eric Wilson, who are great linebackers, so not a big deal with that. Chuck Demings has been talking his praises all offseason long. He's fighting for cornerback 3, and it's going to come down to him, can he figure out those nuances sooner than later so that he can beat out somebody like James Pierre for that third cornerback spot. Remains to be seen. It is just funny, interesting. And even I was doing it when I was at joint practices because it's just so easy to do that. You just see a good play and you just assume that everything is, just rosy. You see a bad play, you just think it's the end of the world. Interesting to hear both coaches kind of give their perspectives on perceived successes and failures in a practice setting. All right, before the season even starts, before the season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions. Who wins the division? Who makes the playoffs? Who's lifting the trophy at season's end? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. Will the Washington Commanders qualify for the playoffs this season? Maybe you're feeling good about Jane Daniels. Right now, the Washington Commanders are trading at 31%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $308.50 if they clinch a playoff spot. Can the Texans win at least 11 games this season? The Texans are currently trading at 49%, meaning a $100 trade pays out $197.04 if they reach 11 wins. Will the Patriots win the AFC Championship again this season? The Patriots are currently trading at 10%, meaning a $100 trade would pay out $940.73 if they take home the title. On Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house, and as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use the code FANARCHFOOTBALL to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI, Kalshi, trade on anything. All right, so this one kind of scared the crap out of me at first. Somebody messaged me. They're like, did you hear about Deshaun? And I thought it was Juwan Jennings at first, but it was Deshaun Jones who has had a very strong training camp. He's actually been very productive in training camp and preseason over the past couple of years as he's been on the Vikings practice squad. He's been battling for what I've been thinking he's been battling for a possible wide receiver 6 spot if the Vikings hold on to 6 receivers. He is suspended for 3 games for violating the league's substance abuse policy. Apparently, this stems from an April arrest where he refused to submit to a breath test to determine his blood alcohol level, pleaded no contest to a lesser charge of reckless driving last month, per Ben Gessling of the Star Tribune. So in my mind, like I said, Deshaun Jones, he did have a fumble in Saturday's game against the Ravens, but he still caught, 5 passes for like 63 yards. He's been productive, throughout camp, looked good in joint practices. So this isn't really any news to the coaching staff. So I don't know if this really hurts their evaluation process of him. But for me, he was already a kind of a bubble guy. Maybe this means that he can get back on the, like he can make the team like after cuts as another practice squad guy again. Kind of disappointing. Like I said, I think that it's, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Juwan Jennings, then Ty Felton and Miles Price. I think those are your 5 locks at receiver. But then the 6th spot, I thought was coming down to Deshaun Jones, Dylan Bell, and Dante Fleming. All 3 have different skill sets. Don't know if they necessarily are just like pounding down the door to be wide receiver 6, but I could see an argument for any of them. This probably means that Jones is at least destined to, at best, be back as a practice squad guy. Probably not as wide receiver 6. It'd be kind of weird if they're just like really, really, really wanting to hold on to him on the active roster. I guess he'd be on the suspended list, but you know what I mean. It makes the wide receiver 6 dream a little bit further out of reach, at least as it stands right now for Deshaun Jones. Very disappointing because, like I said, he had been having a very strong camp. So that's all I got for you today. If you like what you've been seeing, if you're a returning guy, I hope that you've hit that subscribe button already. If you're new, hit the subscribe button for all things Vikings Latest. I'm your host, Cole Smith. Skol Vikes.